everyone to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter. I'm a curator in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books and Manuscripts in the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. SIMS is a research and development group focused on manuscript studies. We do a lot of different stuff. We do digital projects. We digitize our manuscripts, and that means we have manuscripts on the shelf. And once a week on Thursdays, I take one or sometimes two off the shelf and just do a little show and tell. So that's what we're doing today. Sometimes I have a lot of information about the manuscripts, and sometimes I don't. And today, this is a manuscript that I don't actually know a whole lot about, but it's really fun. So we're gonna have a look. So this is shelf mark MS Codex 742. And it is a 13th century French manuscript that is a collection of sermons. And I'll say a little bit more about the sermons in a minute. You will maybe say to yourself, that doesn't look like a 13th century manuscript, and that's because it's in these crummy modern bindings. So this is like a cardboard with some kind of paper that looks like it's made to look like, I don't know, like alligator or something. I'm not entirely sure what's happening there, but it's kind of fun. Over cardboard, it looks like there were labels that are missing now. I can tell you that we have had this manuscript since 1958. It was sold to us in 1958, so we've had it for quite a while in our collection. And when I open it up, now you can say, okay, that looks more like 13th century. So immediately, we can see that it is in two columns. The script is a Gothic book script. The record says it's in several hands, so maybe we'll see if we can see places where the scribe changes in the section. You'll also notice something that if you've been here before, I love pointing this out because it's sort of an easy get. We've got blue and red alternating decorations and initials. So it opens up with this blue initial with red pen work around it, and then this sort of decoration coming down the side. That's kind of nice. And then it has these red and blue section or paragraph headers. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can get a closer look at that initial there. So there's a little bit of a closer look. Another thing you probably noticed is that the margin at the bottom of the page is much bigger than the margin at the top of the page. Not only that, you can see there are a lot of marginal notes that we'll be noticing as we go through. This is a book that was used and that people wrote in after the text itself was written. And one of the things we can see, even on the first page, there's a little bit of a note, and it's been cut a little bit. And also, I think maybe a little bit of this up here has also been cut. This is a really and it's been cut on the side too. Let me come over here so you can see the side. So this is called trimming, and it was really common to do when manuscripts were rebound. So at some point, obviously, it was rebound in probably the 19th century is when this binding was put on, but it could also have been rebound multiple times over the course of its life. And it was cut on the side and also on the top, not on the bottom. I don't know why. They just made that decision that here's where we're gonna trim it there. And I'm gonna note that Amy has made a note in the chat. Oh, Amy Hutchins, my colleague, she's our manuscripts cataloging librarian. She's in the chat to answer questions and also provide helpful information, such as that the decoration down the side is sometimes called a J chain because the units look like a capital I/J, even though they're not. I think we will have some examples of a capital I/J in the document, so you can sort of compare how they look, but it's sort of a decoration there. So Right. So we start out with this initial. It's not a really huge initial. It's just a 2-line initial. And as I said, I think earlier, this is a collection of sermons. They're not very long, and they are starting on the second Sunday of Advent. And I looked to see, and here we have Adventists, the Detribilios Adventus Filii Dei. So the second Sunday of Advent is, and I'm getting this from this is not my own reading. This is coming from the record, starting with the second Sunday of Advent and going through the 25th Sunday after Pentecost. And I'm not super familiar with the liturgical year, so I did a little search, and what I discovered is that Advent is technically the start at this time, and I think now probably the start of the church year begins in Advent, and Advent is looking forward to Christmas. So it's like the 4 weeks leading up to the birth of Christ. So it starts in sort of early December, late November, early December, I guess. And so this is the second week of Advent. So we're talking about December. And then you have Christmastide, which is Christmas through Epiphany, which would be January 6th. And then you have the ordinary time, which is between the end of Christmastide and Lent. And Lent is the weeks leading up to Easter. So you have Lent, and then you have Easter, and a whole bunch of holidays around Easter. You have Good Friday and Holy Saturday, and then Easter Sunday. And then you have Eastertide, which is 7 weeks, and that ends at Pentecost, right? So we have Pentecost, and then we have the second ordinary time, which it takes us from Pentecost to Advent. And I looked at the date this year. Pentecost is on June. Pentecost is on June 8th. 25 weeks after Pentecost is November 30th. So this is almost the entire church year in this book. So sermons for the entire church year. Although I went through and I counted all of the large initials, and there are 56 of them. And there are only 52 weeks in the year. So I don't know if I'm not understanding, maybe there are sermons for other days in addition to just Sunday sermons. Anyway, we're just gonna look through and see what we see. Amy says there are some Sundays that have multiple options. That would explain it. So there's also a section at the end it looks like was written a little bit later. So, but I've been talking enough. Let's take a look. So as we go through, it's going to look like this all the way through. What's going to be interesting is sort of things that come up. So we have, even here, we have a line of text, and it looks like, let me zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. There's a note, and then you see these 2 little lines here. If we look up, just 2 lines up, there's 2 little lines there. And I think what's happening here is someone is noting that there is a line of text that was left out, or a line of text that they want to add. But they're showing us here's where this text can go. And I think, judging from the number of notes that are in here, I'm kind of guessing that this is a copy of these sermons that were actually used by a priest, by potentially multiple priests, and so they would, it's time to do this sermon, and I want to make sure it's right, so they're reading through and adding or making notes of what might be important. So here's this as well, little notes, lots of these kind of little notes. We even see over here. Here's something being added in the text itself. Another one up here. Just a ton of these little additions. And then here's the start of the next sermon. So these aren't very long. The manuscript itself, I think it has something like 60 leaves, 65 leaves. It's not a big manuscript. It's not thick at all. It's quite thin and small. I mean, it's smaller now than it would have been when it was written because it's been trimmed so much. But it still is not a very large manuscript. Could have been carried around, or in a library, in a church library or a monastic library. We don't really know where it was. There's nothing in the known provenance about where it was before we got it. Oh, I've been missing things in the chat. Let's see. Jenna says that's why it's called an Advent calendar, and Amy says yes, countdown to Christmas. Linda says, and there'd be different sermons for Good Friday, presumably. Yes. Let's see. The little note above the initial says Etem de Eodem, also about the same. I think I turned the. Let's see. Oh, is that one there? No. Etem Eodem. I'm not sure where you were saying that, Amy. That's okay. If you see other notes, I'll try to pay better attention to the chat. So here's our next sermon here. So presumably this is going to be here she says, Etem de Eodem. Yes, I see it there. So here is this is I think going to be the third Sunday in Advent. I'm not going to count every one of them because I'm going to get lost, but here we go. Let's see. And again, the alternating red and blue section separatings, or the maybe paragraph separations. A reason to do this, so today we would put in hard returns and start a new line. I expect, it wasn't practice to do that, but also filling in the space was pretty important for scribes at this time. You didn't, parchment, even this parchment, we'll take a look at the parchment. This parchment is, you might call it low quality. I think it's pretty neat because it has things like holes and other things that we'll see. This is a place where there was some kind of hole in the animal skin. So this is parchment, it's made of animal skin, and there was maybe a bug bite, and when it was stretched, parchment's made by stretching the skin out on a frame, and when it gets stretched, if the hole isn't cared for in some way, it just gets big, and so then you have holes in it. And it's kind of fun when you see them down in the margin. Sometimes you see them in the middle of the text and the scribe just kind of writes around them, which is also, I think, fun to see. There's also another hole here, which you might have noticed. That's actually a little tunnel. That is a bookworm, bookworms here. So they made a nice tunnel from the very front through just sort of tunneling through. And that's not unusual to see either. Not often in parchment. They don't seem to like to eat parchment, but they will, clearly, because they're doing it here. So let's see. More notes here in the margins. And these are, I think this is even late. This, I don't know how long this manuscript was used, but this looks certainly after the 13th century. But if you can see, it's pretty sketchy, but this is an example of a manicule, which is a pointed finger. So if you see, there's a little hand with fingers, and then he's pointing up here. It was used to sort of point out interesting things in the book. And so there's several of them here. There's lots of little things. Here's another kind of note that's pointing up. It's not really a manicule, but it's some kind of pen mark. You know, it's sort of a modern idea that you don't write in your books. People in the Middle Ages up till, you know, really up till the 19th century were not afraid of doing that. So here's some more. We've seen this before, these two little marks. I think they're up here. Here's the two little marks. And here's an example of a note that was written in the margin that's been trimmed. And I think we can imagine that the margin would have come out maybe to here, and there's probably a lot of notes that have been trimmed away, and maybe in the top margin as well. Here's another little note that's been trimmed there. Let's see. Gazwan says, having more sermons than weeks in the year, some weeks may have an additional feast or saint's day. Yeah, I think I was being too literal when I counted it up, and I thought 56. That's weird. Here's another note there in the margin. And I've already lost count of the number of sermons. All right, here's one. I've seen a couple of these as I was looking through it. It looks like the eternal, the symbol of eternity. Mayam, Sib. Do you know what that is, Amy? Sigma? May, I don't know. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Here we go. That's as far as I can zoom. I can lift it up a little bit, too. Oh. Do you think so, Amy? Sancta Virginia Mary. Mm-hmm. About the Virgin Mary. Yeah, I'm not sure where. No, it's not a catchword because, yeah, it doesn't match. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure where we are in the church year. I mean, we may be at Christmas by now, so it could be, that would make sense for that to be a note about the Virgin Mary. Yes, as far as I know, this hasn't been edited or translated. I don't know if we know if there are other copies of these same sermons in other collections. There's just nothing it's possible there's just nothing in the record. So it could be an interesting project for someone, actually, to do that. I'm sure there's a lot of work on sermons. Right, and here's another example of this symbol written here, and I think these are the only ones. And I'll zoom in again because this one also has maybe the same, no, I guess it's a different note there. But yeah, but it's later, so that's pretty neat. And apologies if you're watching the video, because I know the recording actually isn't picking up the other people who are talking, so I'm sorry about that. We were just trying to figure out what the text said. So I'll keep moving. We'll see if we can get through to the end. All right, so I'll pause here for a few things. So it's not so badly trimmed here, and you can see that there are folio numbers at the top that I think are It says in the record, it says in a near contemporary hand. So if it's not the scribe who's putting these in, these were added later, which is just kind of interesting because you don't often see foliation from this period. Usually it's like over here, we add our own foliation in pencil when we catalog, when we get the book and catalog it. So that's kind of neat. And it's the same, and I think it's the same all the way through. So this is a 14, and also it's 14, which means that there's nothing missing from the beginning. So, sometimes I'll show you manuscripts and it will start like in the middle of a sentence or something, or there is earlier numbering that doesn't start with 1, and it will, but it looks like this is complete. The manuscript is complete, which is neat. I also want to point out, I was talking about parchment. So here is something that you see again in parchment that some might call lower quality. And these are the edges of the piece that was stretched. I think this is probably a neck. So this is where the arms of the animal, the front legs of the animal would have been here, and then the neck going there. And we just have that. In higher quality parchment, this is trimmed off. And in the more comments in the chat, we have Cassia asking, is the infinity symbol commonly seen in margins? Amy replies, I'm not aware of it in other manuscripts of Penn, and I haven't seen it either. I think I do think it's like related to Christmas things. Nat says that infinity underlining looks very doodly, and yeah, it does. Marika asks, what kind of animal skin would that be that's not a very big neck? It's not a very big neck. I'm kind of guessing this is a neck. Maybe it's not a neck. I was thinking this is, I don't know. It's so hard to tell what animal it is without doing some kind of collagen or DNA analysis. But it could be calf, but again, that would be small. Could be sheep. I don't know. In France, I would think it's mostly going to be calf, but I don't know. Alyssa asks, hi Alyssa, asks, is there any indication of a spine line? Oh, that's a good, you know what? I don't think there is. So if this is the neck, maybe I'm wrong. You would look for the line of the spine sort of coming down the middle, and I don't see one at all. I don't see one at all there. So maybe this is not the neck. I was just thinking it was the neck because they're so close together. But it could be some other part of larger animal. Marta asks, but calf was used for better quality parchment? So yes, but I think it also, I think that's true, or that's the expectation, but it also really mattered how it was prepared. So if you have calf skin that's being prepared in a not very sophisticated way, it would result in parchment that's not very nice. Yes, and Alyssa follows up. Parchment quality doesn't always go along with animal type. It depends on the region and the treatment of the animal and the skill of the preparer. And we actually have seen this in DNA analysis that's been happening. There's a biocodicology. I can't remember the name of the project, but it's Matthew. He's at York. And they have a project that did a whole lot of different collagen and DNA analysis, and it was a little bit shocking to see how the animal that the DNA analysis showed, made the parchment. It was all over the place. Like you had very, very high quality goat and sheep, which you would expect to have lower quality, and then lower quality calf. So I do think preparation plays a big role in it. Amy adds, there would be small curves all the way around the edge of a stretched skin, which are usually trimmed off. So it might be one of those edge scallops. You're right. It could just be where it was pulled on the edge along. So it could have been a very large skin that was pulled narrow around the edge. Here's another one of these. I just love these additions. And there's where it was added, those two little lines. And a lot of other, this one has a lot of changes here going on there. Gazwan asks, why is the initial of each sermon in red, the other in blue? Oh, this is really typical. So here we have a blue initial, and then the next one is going to be red, and then the next one's going to be blue. It was just, this is how, it was like scribal practice, and it's really typical. You see it all over Europe in all different genres of manuscripts. So this is a collection of sermons. You would also see it in philosophy. You would see it all kinds of places. It doesn't have to do with who the scribes are. It's the same scribe. It's just this practice of going back and forth between red and blue in particular, but you also get other colors. Sometimes you get green and other colors too. I didn't mention it, but there was another one of these. I don't know if you all noticed that as I went past, but there's another one of these here. Alyssa comes back. Oh, and here's another one here. Alyssa says, if I recall correctly, there was another biocodicology project at UNC. Yes, the UNC project is Tim Stinson. Tim Stinson also did that. The two projects, York and the one in the US, had different approaches, which makes comparing them fascinating. Matthew Collins was the name of the guy at York. So Matthew Collins and Tim Stinson, both. And actually, a former student of Tim Stinson was here just a couple of weeks ago to take DNA samples of one of our manuscripts, which is a palimpsest. And so he's working on that right now. So hopefully we'll have something interesting to share about that. Oh no, it is almost 12:30. I've spent so much time talking about parchment and not enough time turning the pages. And we almost missed this amazing long-fingered manicule right there. And another, I think someone needs to write a paper about this manuscript and figure out what is going on with these symbols in the margin, if they mean something or not. We still have a minute, so I'm going to I'll keep. Look at that. And you could also write about the weird manicules. I wonder if they were added by the same person who is making the infinity symbols. And there's also more sort of fun notes up here. Okay, it is time to go. Thank you so much. It was really fun just to kind of take a deep look at this one. I hope you guys had fun too, talking about parchments. The manuscript, it's digitized, so if you want to go online and have a look, take a look. If you decide to write a paper about it, let me know. We'd love to hear it. And Team Low Quality Parchment, that's right, I love it. All right, thank you so much, guys. I hope I'll see you again next week, and take care.